So if you want to make $10,000 a month, your entire mental goal is to, create 10 eBay accounts. Once you log in on a computer with that eBay account, do not ever log into that account any other way,
Yep.
anytime, any place, anywhere. From
Oh,
then on, you are going to AnyDesk into that computer for the rest of your life. We are literally going to slow down our accounts in December every year from now on. Is we just increase the price 10% because it's just not worth the MC011, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah, we got a question for Dan. Have you ever given Poshmark a solid try, and do you think it's any better than selling on eBay?
I've looked at it, but I gave up pretty quick, mainly just because I'm better off with systems like Sammy's created and just follow a system that somebody's already created. So I do know other people have done that, and if you have systems that people have recommended, then that's the way to go. I have spent thousands and thousands on courses and eBay courses, which I certainly recommend. You don't need the courses as much because Sammy has pretty much put all that together for us. But at this time, I have Walmart seller stores, I have Amazon seller stores, I have
Mm,
Etsy seller stores, I have TikTok seller stores. I was doing Facebook for a while. From all my experience, and I'm pretty average, meaning I've got
yeah,
expertise just through time, but it's not like I'm any kind of expert. I still think eBay is the easiest way to go and continue with and to
mm,
scale. Because again, look, ultimately, every eBay account, typically within 6 months to a year, should be worth $500 to $1,000 net profit, right?
mm,
So if you want to make $10,000 a month, your entire mental goal is to, create 10 eBay accounts. Now, the hardest part with that is if they're linked together, if you end up with a problem with one, then all the work that you've done, you can lose all 10. So, the real trick here is learning how to create eBay accounts and warm them up. I created two last year. I haven't even used yet. I'm just warming them up. So if they're a year old, it's a lot easier to do all this stuff. But if you want to make huge money, become an expert on how to create new eBay accounts. And that typically
mm.
means, you do need, somebody or a family member or something to be able to do that. You need a real person, right? They have too many of these checks down the road where somebody has to be on a live camera with an ID and pass
Mm.
the ID check. So to create fake accounts that you have no true person, I think is eventually a waste of a time because you're
Mm.
eventually going to lose it. So, I'm an old man, so I have four kids and my wife. So we basically have six different people,
Mm.
and
And how many accounts can you get from six different people?
well, I think I'm okay with 3 to 5. I
Mm.
know that's still risky, but if you someday end up with 20 accounts because of all of that, that could be $20,000 a month income. So I'm not necessarily pushing that. You really want to do, one account per ID in the beginning, but ultimately what you're doing is you're creating an LLC or an S corp, and you're having the eBay basically owned by the person you have the true ID with, and then you're having the an EIN number so that the tax records and everything go through an LLC. If you want a blind LLC, you do that through like Wyoming or whatnot, so that it never sees you and your information, only that one person's information. Your biggest thing with using other people's ID is you don't want them to get the tax hit from it. So you need to
Yeah.
create an LLC or an S corp so the taxes go through that and then through your taxes. And again, I know that's pretty advanced stuff, but become an expert on that, and especially with AI helping you walk through all that stuff now, that's even way easier than it used to be. If you're an expert on that, then there is unlimited scaling ability,
You can
right?
just sell
Because
LLCs with preloaded eBay accounts.
listen, I've been asking for years, if anybody wants to make that a job, that they would make a fortune. I would buy, I would buy uh
Because it's a digital
eight.
asset, right?
Yeah, I would buy aged, eBay accounts. I would buy aged Amazon accounts. I mean, those have a lot of value. So if somebody became an expert and, just age these over time, there's a lot of value there, no question.
I'm on it then. I'm on it.
There you go. Let me
We
know.
have our friend,
I'll
we
be
have
your
our
first
friend
customer.
Caleb Augustin. Where are you from, Caleb?
I'm from Haiti.
Caleb
I
Augustin
live in,
from Haiti. He is on
I
it,
live in
boys.
Florida. I live in Florida right now. So then, long time no see, man. Listen, I'm on it. I'm on it. I got 5 accounts last week. I got one from my barber. I got another one from his friend. I got 3 from a lady that's been in business not as long as you, but her eBay accounts are like 15 years old. Like
Yeah.
she started reselling before 2015 or whatever. So, she's done with that, but she's pretty old too. I met her at the gym and
Nice.
I, we started talking and I was like, hey, can you pass down all those accounts to me? And she's like, sure. I mean, I'm not doing anything with them. I was like,
Well, Caleb, listen, it's a true legit business. Anybody idea you use, just know that eventually they have to be willing to be on camera and show their ID when there becomes an ID verification. If you wanted to create a business around this, I would say that you would have the person provide the person's ID that you're going to make the account in. You're going to do it, on their system. So you're going to AnyDesk it in. Rust Desk is the other one that I recommend now because AnyDesk, the bigger you get, they keep jumping up with the paid for service and whatever. But, your service would be that somebody would come to you with the person and the ID, and then you would either walk them through how to create the
I got,
LLC, and then you're going to age that account for 6 months, and you're going to have some kind of fee for doing that.
I
I'm
got something
listening.
better. You can sell what you call a book of business. When you sell a book of business by law, you can pass on everything that is under that book of business, including logins, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. It's
eBay,
just know that at some point you're still going to probably run into the ID verification. So even if
yes.
you're
Yeah, that's
selling
So,
that and
that's a real
passing that
problem.
on,
right,
you
right.
eventually are probably going to run into that where you're going to need the original owner to, be able to do that.
This is what I'm trying to figure out from eBay right now, right? What I'm trying to figure out from eBay is, since that's a business style that's been around since, what I mean, since like the beginning of whatever, like when that happened, for example, when you're creating a business profile, business eBay account, right? It asks you how many people owns that business, whatever that percentage is, you can put that percentage. So let's just say you are ready to sell your eBay account. You will sell your eBay account as a book of business, but then eBay will receive that document that you sold your book of business and eBay was was your business. So that means someone else now, by law, have the documents because they sign it that says that this is your business now. So all the information that is passed on, eBay will now verify that this was done properly, and it was actually signed to you. From that point on, you own that business. So if they need verification, you have to verify that business because by law, you have the book of business that was signed, onto you.
Yeah,
So
and listen, but Caleb, I agree with that. The challenge is then now it's got your name and now you're attached to more eBay accounts, right?
that
Listen, I'm not
Yeah,
arguing with you.
dude,
I'm just
my
telling you
question is
that
how many
ultimately,
eBay accounts can you actually have attached to like one person's ID, one person's information?
over time, you probably technically can have unlimited. The difference is the
It's
chances
gonna
of
be in your tax
running
bracket.
unlimited without running into a problem eventually is slim to none. So again, you can set all this up and waste a lot of time because suddenly yes, you bought, 10 legitly, LLC eBay accounts, and you had it transferred to you in your name, but now you're attached to all 10. So if one really goes
Mhm.
down badly, then eventually each one of those are at risk. You're just risking them all, right? So listen, I love the idea. It's just the money, the value is if somehow You have completely separate eBay accounts that are not connected whatsoever in any possible way. That's the proper way to scale to make millions.
Okay,
But
I have an
this
idea.
is the part. Hold
So
up. This is the part. This is the part that I don't want you to miss then. Right now, you're getting someone brand new, right? To create a business account and you build that eBay account to be aged and verified and completely verified. But you could do the very same thing without that account being connected to you, except now it's a fully verified age account, 15 years old, except the new person that's going to own it, that same sister, that same brother, that same cousin that's going to own it, is now going to own a percentage of that
yeah,
LLC.
do they have to? Do they have to own a percentage, or can you work something out
Well, the thing is,
beforehand?
they don't really have to own a percentage of the LLC. The thing is, when eBay asks you for, I mean, for this, like for the verification, what we are trying to get around is the verify part, right? Right now, eBay is ask. I just verified an account, and eBay asks you to take a picture of the license, which I was telling you I think 2 meetings ago, I was telling you they asked to take a picture of the license and take a selfie of yourself, right? But listen, I'm still doing that for a brand new account. Anything can happen to that account from now and 6 months later, MC11 or MC99, right? But if it was an already verified, account, 15 years old account, my sister don't have an eBay account. They can still be an owner of that, account, but it's a very age account that's probably not going to run into any more of the MC11 or MC99 as much, especially if they've already passed those stages in the past 15 years. Except now that account is not linked to me, and it's a very age account, and it's unlimited. Sky is the limit at that point. So I'm just trying to go around the idea of dealing with the brand new account, because I see that eBay is trying to strangling the freaking new accounts.
Yeah.
I got banned in 12 hours on a new account. And everything was different. Everything. I didn't have my name on it. I didn't have my social, new IP, new device, new phone, new everything. 12 hours, banned.
It might, is it a non-VoIP number?
And then what?
A non-VoIP number.
What the phone number that I use?
Yeah.
No, it's Verizon. I use a Verizon number.
It was a real phone number, and I looked over it, and yeah, I mean, new accounts eBay scrutinizes very closely, and Caleb can definitely tell us all about the difference between an aged account and a brand new account. So
What's the difference?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. The when it comes to the age account, right? And again, then first account can't be touched. So it's 25 years old. How long your account's been, Dan? How long is your oldest account?
I mean, yeah, my original cow, I wish I had made 100 back then, because you could make it just by spitting at it.
Right.
But I've definitely even had issues with that. I don't think I've ever had an MC011 on that one, but
Make it
they
just by
we're
spitting at
drop
it.
shipping. We're doing what they don't want you to do, so that caused a problem. But this last one where I had an MC011, that was on a 7-year-old eBay account. So and my expectation is eBay is going to continue to do this and make it harder. So all I'm saying is, instead of fighting it, my suggestion would be, having real people that will always be available, that and even if you got to pay them, that if they need an ID verification, that they are available to do that. Yes, you can transfer it in your name and do all those things. That just adds an extra layer of risk. The true value would be is creating an aged account that has a person available to it eventually if you ever need it. I'm your first customer, so when you're ready to set it up, let me know. Contact me. I'm buying. I'm a buyer. So if you're a seller, I'm a buyer.
W Dan, W Dan.
Yeah,
All
well,
right, and then
what Dan is saying though is always going to be the safest, like having separated accounts, because I do agree, like aged accounts can get banned. I was talking to someone with a bunch of accounts. 5-year-old account top rated just randomly got MC999. It of course does happen. So we're just trying to protect ourselves in the long term against suspension and risk. So
So,
middle out.
and I think this last wave of MC011, and I'm sorry if you guys have covered this in past calls, but I think a big wave happened in December. December is very risky.
Yeah.
It happens with growth and increase of sales. But, based on what we do, sometimes we have issues with tracking IDs, right? So what's really triggering these is having high, even though it doesn't affect your seller performance, but having high items not received, that is triggering more MC011s.
Yeah.
So
And
even if you're using, Trackerbot and, or Track Taco or whatever and putting in fake trackings, the biggest challenge is when people don't, it doesn't track or they don't think they received their item and they open those, that's when you run into problems.
yeah, Oliver was using Trackerbot and he actually got like 10 INRs in December. I don't think it
Wait,
actually.
what's IR?
It's item not received cases. Someone says they didn't get the item. But yeah, he got a lot, even with Trackerbot, because if it's delayed, then it's not going to be updated. So like this is where Caleb would say, right? Like customer support is so important, staying on top
Yes.
of all the old orders, setting messages in advance, taking care of people so they don't open INRs, right? And that will matter regardless of tracking. So it really does come down to just having really good systems in place when you're scaling.
So, and I'll tell you how I'm going to move with my accounts. It might seem counterintuitive, but we are literally going to slow down our accounts in December every year from now on. Um, I just think there's too much risk. And the number one way we slow it down is we just increase the price 10%. So we make sales and we make more profit, but we try to slow down the volume some because it's just not worth the MC011, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And
Yeah.
again, the minute I get that, I pause any accounts that are attached to all that because it can get ugly really quick. And if you're doing, $1,000 a day in sales, you're not getting paid either. So that can, in 10 days, that's $10,000 that you're sitting on. So, it down the road, it can get serious. So again, I'm just letting you know our method is we're
That's what
going to
happened to
slow
me
down our
actually.
December sales, even though I know that's the hottest month. That's the biggest month you're going to run into problems.
That's what happened to me. I'm pretty new to this. I started a couple months ago, and I opened uh I opened an account in like September, or was it August? And I ended up scaling it to $1,000 a day in December. And then for after 10 days, I got that I think 99, like the tracking number and proof of purchase.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, again, we love the money, and man, when everything's pumping great, everything's great. But it's not worth losing a great account and having problems later on. So I would
Hmm.
way rather slow and steady build accounts that are going to last a lifetime than you know going crazy and getting
100%.
maximum sales or whatever. I'm telling you, you guys can build a very strong long-term income with this and you can scale it. There's no reason, and I know some people are desperate. I don't want to talk that way, but um, desperate, if you make a lot of money, but then you can't make any money for 4 months because you got to start a new
Yeah.
account or you lost a one or that one's closed
Yep.
down for a month and a half and you're paying, Marty to fix it and all the
And
other stuff.
the tracking numbers, you're still paying for
Yeah,
those too.
I mean, is the $1,000 a day worth it that you grew
Marty
so quick?
isn't
Then
cheap.
or is it better off $200 a day with an account that's gonna, keep pumping along? So
Or 200 with 10 reliable accounts.
yes, well, that is the real. Listen, the real secret here is the day that you really figure out how to 100% separate, have completely separate accounts, own computers, own IPs, static IPs, different names, different people,
I,
different, every 100% completely isolated machines. When you can eventually learn how to do all of that, then it's unlimited scalability.
Dan, I have a setup right now at my university. If I have like three different accounts with three different students, all working under the same IP, university IP, and so far there's been zero problems on that. It's in
Yeah,
Canada as
and
well.
listen, I'm not saying there's going to be account, problems. Man, if you do customer service and run your account perfect, usually you're not going to run into problems, But again, INRs and any kind of issues and trackings and
It
whatever, and
slows
especially
stuff
with
down.
AI is going to start scouring messages. And if you have the same, if you have an account that's top seller, but all it's seeing is messages from customers getting pissed off, trust me, eBay is going to find a way to flag all of those. They're trying to, protect their $100 billion company. So again, isolation is the answer. We can go back and forth over and over and over, but having completely isolated accounts is the key. And I don't, yeah, even having IPs in schools and stuff like that, other people share. And your colleges are probably easier because less chance of people having closed accounts from that. But I've even had situations where I traveled with my laptop and I was checking in and I was on hotel IPs and shit like that, and I suddenly got an MC011. I think it might have been just because I
Oh,
was using my laptop on different IPs. So,
yeah.
So
and it was just a dumb move on my part, but it's just,
I
you
mean,
don't necessarily think
that
about it.
must have been back in the day. Not as much information as there now.
No, that also happened to me. I was traveling and I was in LA and I opened and well I had an account but it was like 4 years and all of a sudden they just hit me with an MC11. So yeah, because I was on hotel Wi-Fi.
Is
guys,
So if I can
MC11
tell you anything,
verification?
once you log into eBay, I know it's stupid because you should be able to travel and run your accounts, but the reality is the suggestion, the learning experience is once you log in on a computer with that eBay account, either if you're using a VPS, but again, a mini computer is the best way with a static IP. Once you do that, do not ever log into that account any other way,
yep.
anytime, any place, anywhere. From
Oh,
then on, you are going to any desk into that computer for the rest of your life. That's the suggestion.
so
Um,
real quick, right? So I think this has been a great discussion. We're gonna move on to Hunter in one sec, but Dan, I just have one quick question. Do you use tracking like Trackerbot?
I use it all, so I'm always experimenting with my different accounts.
Hmm.
So I use Track Taco, I use Trackerbot.
Okay.
Um, Trackerbot, as we all know, is not perfect either.
Yeah.
I went a couple years without using it. I'm actually going back to it. So I do recommend it, the biggest thing I think is communication. And the other thing, especially if you're trying to get top rated seller, one of that is getting those things delivered and tracking put in immediately. Well,
Yeah.
that's going to be a problem because that's what's going to cause all your, item not received cases. So what we do primarily at this point is we wait at least 48 hours before we put in any kind of tracking, and if we're using Track Taco, we're picking out the latest delivery date as we can. Don't pick because the number one thing happens, right? Is it says it's delivered. Somebody dings their phone and says your eBay thing was delivered and it never was. And they're instantly on edge and pissed off and whatever. That's what you want to avoid, right? So I try to do my Track Taco. If I do it, that's going to show up as delivered on the day it probably will be delivered or a day or two after it actually gets delivered because by the time they receive their item they could care less when it about delivery info.